Right now, your living time is being systematically expropriated. That is not a metaphysical statement. It is a cold, mechanical, calculated fact. Every night while you sleep, an invisible force is quietly taking away the financial future you thought you were building with your sweat and tears. The most terrifying part is, you are voluntarily helping that force. Have you ever wondered why your less intelligent, less hard-working colleague just posted vacation photos on a yacht, while you are meticulously reviewing your electricity bill with persistent anxiety? Why would a system, seemingly built for freedom, be constructed to force 99% of us to pay interest, pay the highest taxes, and then compel us to return to work even harder, never escaping that vicious cycle? What is truly happening beneath the glamorous facade of this free economy? In video, you will see the naked truth about the forgotten rule, the ancient principle that determines who masters debt and who is mastered by it. This is a rule written in the very language of power itself. We will discover why the traditional advice, be thrifty, avoid debt at all costs, is one of the system's most sophisticated lies. A lie enacted to keep the working class perpetually controllable. You will learn the secret Machiavellian formula: control, effort. It is not about morality. It is about structure. And finally, I will reveal how to turn the one thing you have always feared, debt, into your never-sleeping servant. A silent employee working 24/7. Be ready, because what you are about to hear will redefine your entire perception of money, power, and freedom. Do you ever feel like you are running on a high-speed treadmill, exhausted and sweating, yet the finish line keeps moving further away? The crucial question to ask is, who truly benefits when you save cash? We are taught to put money in the bank, to be patient. History has clearly shown us that inflation has always been the most brutal hidden tax imposed on the working class. When you hoard cash, its purchasing power diminishes daily, mercilessly. Inflation is like a silent rat gnawing away at your future, an invisible thief you cannot catch. But here is the surprise. When you save, what does the bank use that money for? They lend it to the wealthy at lower rates, using it to purchase assets that insulate against inflation. You receive a thin thank-you interest rate of 0.01%. The system is designed so that accumulating cash will never make you rich. Cash is fuel, and if you do not burn it to create momentum, someone else will use it. While you are meticulously accumulating every penny, the wealthy are borrowing larger amounts and getting richer. Because they understand, money is not for hoarding, it is for circulation, for transporting value. Cash is oxygen, and they never waste oxygen where it does not multiply, where it does not create control. You are keeping money in the mud, while they are using it to build bridges. But that is not the scariest part. That is just the start of the divide. Now, let us discuss the cost of your effort. Have you ever felt penalized for working too hard? Ask yourself coldly, why does the hardest working person pay the most tax, starting from the very first dollar? You sweat, you commit 40, 60, even 80 hours a week, and the government assigns you the highest income tax bracket. That is a rate that even a wealthy person with tens of millions in dividend or rental income rarely has to pay. The historical truth, a painful one. Tax laws were not created for fairness or equality. They were created to incentivize certain behaviors and penalize others. Specifically, tax laws reward asset ownership and punish pure labor with the highest rates. The surprise is, the wealthy use debt as an almost perfect tax shield. They borrow to invest in assets with depreciation allowances. They calculate every business expense. And all these borrowings are deducted from taxable income. They even borrow money to cover personal living expenses, and that loan is not taxed because it is not income. You work to earn money, pay tax, and then spend the remainder. They use debt to buy assets, let the assets service the debt, and use debt to live. This is an uneven fight where you use muscle strength, while they use structure and rules designed by themselves. You are trapped in the income trap, while they are building empires from legal loopholes created to serve them. You are a moving pawn. They are the board designers. But that is not the scariest part. This is just a difference in tactics. If tax is the penalty for effort, how is debt used to manipulate your emotions? Dare to look at the truth. Why do most people use debt emotionally rather than strategically? When you hear the word debt, you immediately think of piled up bills, 20% interest, and sleepless nights. That is the image the system wants you to see, wants you to fear, so you never dare to use it controllably. It is designed for you to use debt to buy short-term comfort, a new TV, an impulsive vacation, to feel better instantly, to get a quick dopamine hit. The poor and middle class use credit cards to seek emotional solace. The surprise is, the wealthy use debt as a precise surgical tool to generate dividends and cash flow. Credit cards, consumer loans, are essentially finely tuned behavior control tools. A modern form of slavery, where the chains are called the minimum payment requirement. It creates a loop. Emotional need, borrowing, high interest payment, having to work harder to repay. While you use debt to buy depreciating liabilities, they use debt to buy assets that generate cash flow. That is not a moral issue. It is a design issue. You borrow for emotional comfort. They borrow for power and control. Machiavelli wrote, "Power does not belong to the good, it belongs to the calculated." Are you calculating or merely reacting? But that is not the scariest part. The difference also lies in where the debt is anchored. If debt is used to control emotions, how do they use it to control the phenomenon of inflation itself? Have you ever wondered, why can the wealthy buy $1 million house or a large company yet rarely pay in cash? It is simple. They view cash as oxygen, a strategic resource. They do not waste it where it does not multiply or where it will be eaten by inflation. The history of asset investment shows that a long-term mortgage is not a debt but a silent ally against inflation. The surprise is, the wealthy let inflation work for them silently. Consider this. If inflation is 5% and their mortgage is 3%, they are borrowing money at a cost cheaper than the rate their money is depreciating. Every year, their real debt is being reduced by 2% in terms of purchasing power due to the erosion of currency. Meanwhile, the value of the real estate increases. This is not just financial literacy, this is Machiavellian patience, using the enemy's weapon, inflation, against itself. While you rush to pay off your house in 10 years, financially drained, they maintain a 30-year loan, using the remaining cash to buy 3 more income-generating assets. They call that freedom. You call your action responsibility. They call your action self-trapping. Debt is like fire. If you fear it, it will burn you. If you learn to control it, it will warm your entire kingdom. But that is not the scariest part. This control goes beyond mere physical assets. Now, we delve into the core structure. Who truly has the power to redefine the rules of the game? You still think the battle is about who works hardest, right? That is a fatal mistake. The real battle is about who designs the rules and who has the power to change them. Centuries ago, kings borrowed money from merchants to fund wars. When they could not repay, they did not panic. They changed the rules. Today, the financial architects, investors, bankers, founders continue that work. The surprise is, real power comes not from ownership, whose name is on the title, but from control, who controls the cash flow. A homeowner may own the property, but the bank controls it through the loan. And this is exactly what the wealthy homeowner wants. They let the tenants pay the debt to the bank. That is financial martial arts, using the system's weight against itself. You are playing checkers, moving one piece at a time straightforwardly. They are playing chess, controlling the entire board strategically. They buy companies, patents, systems. But more importantly, they own debt. They're never sleeping employee. They own the rules. You cannot win a game designed by others to make you lose. You must learn how to redesign it, or at least learn to play with the hidden rules. But that is not the scariest part. This control extends beyond money. It lies in psychological reaction. Calmness is not coldness. It is the ultimate strength. See how they capitalize on chaos. Be honest. Why do the wealthy not panic when the market crashes, when everyone else is selling off? The answer is simple but difficult to execute. Money loves stillness and flees from despair. The poor and middle class use debt to escape insecurity, borrowing in panic, and buying when things are already too expensive. The wealthy use debt when everyone else is terrified. They capitalize on crises to accumulate assets cheaply. The surprise is, they act not by emotion, but by strategy and mechanical calculation. When the market crashes, they buy. When others sell off, they hold. That is complete emotional detachment. They see the pattern where others see chaos. You cannot control the world outside, but you can absolutely control your reaction. When you stop letting emotions dictate, you start seeing clear numbers, opportunities that others miss. You are no longer a slave to the system. You become the strategist the system never wanted to exist. You stop asking, "How can I repay this debt?" and start asking, "What can I use this money for to generate double the cash flow before it's due?" You transition from reacting to designing. That is true wealth. Control over time, choice, and emotion. But that is not the scariest part. The final truth still awaits you at the end of this path. You thought the story was over? You thought you understood the secret to wealth was just buying real estate and borrowing? Wrong. You have only seen the tools. The ultimate truth does not lie in a complex formula, but in mental control. What Machiavelli called true power. He who controls his own fear controls power. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This is the final formula, the Machiavellian revelation in the new era. The formula that financial architects use to shape the world. Wealth does not flow to effort, it flows to control. To win, you must master, leverage, smart debt, and completely eliminate emotional obedience, fear, greed, need to impress. Treat debt as a bridge, not a hole. Every borrowed dollar must be a loyal soldier you command, not a deity you worship. Stop spending to impress others. Spend to progress and build structure. When you spend on image, you buy chains and dependency. When you spend on structure, you buy freedom and control. Your freedom begins right now when you commit to acting like a strategist, not a spender. You do not need permission to win. You only need calculation, execution, and silence. Comment one word now. Control. To affirm you are ready to become your own financial architect, no longer a pawn on someone else's board. History does not end. It is happening right now.